Good morning, everybody. I'm laughing. Good morning. Because we're live on YouTube. We're live on TikTok. But it says it's Tuesday on YouTube. And I just caught that as I hit the live button. So if you're following us on YouTube, it is Wednesday. I assure you, I had to double check myself. That's the only reason I know. We're live on TikTok as well. We got some TikTok news to talk about this morning. 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. And as you can see, I am still using half of this old integration into the setup, but I'm so close, so close. I've been working nonstop. Paperwork. I've been backing up my iCloud, which is just, if you've ever backed up your iCloud, and I don't mean to the iCloud, what a nuisance. Anyway, give me a call, 253-263-1540. It's a Wednesday, but it feels like a Friday. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It feels, and I don't like this speaker. I want headphones, even though I don't really care for headphones. And I want you to get line in. So we're so close, but I'm crawling. If I really wish I had a clone or at least an intern, because I'm trying to back up my iCloud. I somehow let it get to the point that I was paying for 2 terabytes in the iCloud. I don't know why. Because when I go to back up the iCloud and go look at everything in the iCloud and realize what it's going to take, because they only let you back up like 1,000 items at a time, instead of doing an entire backup, a 2 terabyte backup, which I've done. So whatever, I wanted to back up some particular videos and photos, and then I'm looking at all the stuff that's backed up in this 2 terabytes in the cloud, and I'm realizing, who needs any of this stuff? Like, I'm talking about copies of replays, like how many streams of the part, and I don't want to give Apple $10 a month for nothing anymore. So I decided to just go through and back up. But I reached the point. Basically, what's happening is I somehow let it get to 2 terabytes. And now I want to go back down to just the free plan because I don't need it. But I had everything on, and I'm looking at a 75 gig backup of a device. I mean, what is going on? So it just got out of control. And part of what I was trying to do with the business and everything in the new year is just get dialed in. So not everything is super exciting, but I'm sitting over here, and I'm trying to back stuff up. And then I realize at a certain point, if I got all the photos, I really don't care about the videos. I don't even care about the live photos. For the most part, with exception, with a few, but for the most part, I really just, as long as I had the photos, I'm good. But because I'm going from 2 terabytes back down to whatever it is, 5 gigabytes, I don't know how they do that. I'm assuming the oldest stuff goes first and only the most recent stuff will take up the 5 gigabytes. But then I probably should turn off, I don't know. It just got to be too much. So I'm doing that. I set up my controller over here. I consolidated my workflow for the most part over here. About 60 seconds, if there would have been a camera in the ceiling looking at me, 60 seconds before I started the show, I am just staring into the abyss because I had a realization that was going to solve a couple problems for me that I want to do today. And I can do today. I just need a $3 adapter, and I don't have it. So it'll be a good excuse to get a cup of coffee, go to Walmart. By the way, speaking of coffee, I did go get Dunkin' this morning because Dunkin' is our future sponsor. They still don't have the French crullers. In fact, they tell me that they're supposed to come Saturday. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? Who's project managing the donuts? So at some point I need to get somebody from Dunkin' on the show. I just want to understand, how does a Dunkin' inside of a Walmart get their donuts? Maybe I'm the only person that cares, but I am absolutely obsessed with where are the donuts coming from? Is there just one baker in a warehouse and he's baking for all of Orange and Osceola County? I don't know. I just want to know. I'm curious. It's not like they're back there doing it. I know they can if they need to with limited ability, but they're not back there in the Dunkin' Donuts and the Walmart. There's no Fred back there, I maintain. 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. So I have a legitimate cup today, which I am very happy about. I don't know why the TikTok comments look weird, but they do. Now a couple things. There's a lot to unpack with TikTok. The last meeting that I had with TikTok in their headquarters, it was explained to us that if TikTok was going to go away, it would simply be a matter of time as the app were to degrade, and you would slowly have, your viewer experience would slowly start to unravel. Now they're saying we're going to turn it off. We're going to straight up turn it off Sunday if there's no resolution. So now ByteDance is threatening to literally turn off TikTok. Now, here's the problem I have with this, and most of y'all probably haven't even thought about this because I don't think most people are, and I certainly don't hear anybody in the media talking about this. There are a ton of creators on the platform waiting for payments. I'm okay. The payment that I was waiting for, I don't know how everybody's cycle works and everybody gets their payments in different ways, but I saw today that I got my last, theoretically last payment from TikTok. I got today. But if you shut down that app Sunday and you don't let a lot of other creators, and I'm not speaking for myself now, I'm speaking for every other creator on the platform that may have funds pending, whether it's from the TikTok shop, the creator fund, subs, wherever it's coming from. If they just hard shut it down, they sure as hell better have a way for those creators on the platform to get paid. And if you're going to play a game of chicken up into the finish line like that, without having a way to make sure that everybody on the app that needs to get paid gets paid. And again, I am not part of that problem. I looked today, my payment is pending because I was thinking about this and I knew when it was due. But they also didn't say they were going to do that. They said it would degrade over time, which means you'd have access to the app. You'd have access to your dashboard as a creator. You'd be able to see what was going on. If you hard shut that app down Sunday and you don't pay all of your creators, or you don't give them access to their dashboard to make sure that they can track their payments when they're due, then I think you have a whole nother problem on your hands. Because now you're playing a game of chicken. Now you're saying the only thing that we can consider now is letting Elon Musk buy TikTok. Are you kidding me? This guy's going to own two social media platforms? No. That's China playing a game. They're playing it. ByteDance and China are playing a game of chicken now. So now the problem I have no longer becomes about the future of TikTok. Okay, but when TikTok says, you know what, F you, Congress, Americans, we're just going to pull the plug. If you wind up shafting a whole bunch of U.S. creators out of money that they are due, you're going to have a whole other issue on your hands. And shame on you for threatening to pull the plug after you sat a whole bunch of creators in a room and told them that the app would degrade over time. Now, none of those creators were directly concerned about their payment distributions. They were concerned about future revenue streams as a whole. But I'm literally talking about the mechanism of the delayed payments from last month that people are rightfully due. I'm not talking about future undetermined revenue. I am talking there are creators all over that app, all over this app, that are going to do money at some point. And again, it comes from all over the app. I'm not talking about myself. There's somebody out there who's probably got a grip of money that they're waiting on to be distributed to them from the TikTok shop. So you're going to hard pull the plug Sunday? That's the game you're playing now? You're going to pull the plug and you're going to deny some U.S. creator the money that they're due? And don't say, don't worry, we're going to take care of it because you haven't announced the solution. You shouldn't go out there and play chicken. If you're going to threaten to pull the plug, you sure as hell better have a way to make sure that every U.S. creator gets paid. Or you're just going to shaft them because at that point, who cares? And I have to tell you, I don't think they care. And I know I'm not supposed to say these things, okay? I know I'm not supposed to say these things because I am on TikTok. I am a creator on TikTok, but I don't care. Because I'm going to call it the way I see it every time. Every time. And to suggest that Elon Musk is the only solution to your problems, to suggest that Elon Musk acquiring TikTok is somehow the resolution, as if there's not some sort of backdoor deal going on there. What world are we living in? I mean, it's out of control. I feel like it's a bad comic book. And things are getting very dystopian. (253) 263 1540 253 263 1540. Mr. Wonderful says that he's the only one that has a real deal on the table. Meanwhile, China's saying, no, Elon Musk. There's a game being played, and I think the only thing that anyone should be concerned about at this point, if they're willing to pull the plug like that, is making sure that everybody gets their money that's due. Because I'm telling you, it's offset. In other words, there's a creator out there right now that's waiting on money from last month or last cycle, however you want to talk about it, however you want to define it. Okay, because it doesn't happen in real time, right? You know how net terms work. It's essentially the same thing. So there's processing time. And all I'm saying is, you made the comment that they'll be able to download their data, okay? But you said that about users. You haven't said anything to creators. There hasn't been any email that I have seen that has gone out to creators talking about access to their payouts. Now, see, at the end of the day, I would suggest that neither ByteDance nor Congress give two flying fish about anyone in the U.S. making money off of the app. They don't care about the creator economy. That's not what this is about for them. This is a U.S.-China debacle. That's all it is. And the idea of somehow saying Elon Musk is the solution to your problem should be the big reveal that it's all just a game that's being played at the top. So my question again is, if you pull the plug Sunday, and if you do, say la vie, but if you pull the plug Sunday, who's going to hold TikTok accountable for paying all of those creators? And I'm hearing all this coming out yesterday, so I don't even know if that notion is out there yet. I don't even know if that's being discussed. I don't know what part of that I may be missing. I don't know what's broke on the news this morning. If you have any updates, as always, 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. I don't know what happens. Like I said, I'm fine personally. I'm fine. I saw this morning, it says processing, it says pending. I think by the time I get off the air, it'll have cleared. I'm cool for now. But it makes me weary. I'm telling everybody I want to start a marathon Okay, but do I include TikTok in the? I mean, like the last thing I want to be doing is, having people show their support on an app that's going away in 48 hours. Just do the marathon on every other platform. But I mean, it's just a weird spot to be in for the next couple of days. And you would have thought the Supreme Court would have made their announcement by now. And I think that they're gonna kick it back to the executive branch on some level. I heard some comment about that this morning too. I forget who said it. So I don't know. And I keep saying I don't know because I don't know. But I find it absurd that they're playing chicken. Like, what do you really want? What do you really want? And I'm saying that to ByteDance, not to Congress. What do you really want? I can't believe that Elon Musk owning TikTok is really going to, obliterate your concerns. Obliterate's a strong word. Alleviate your concerns. And what are ByteDance's concerns, by the way? ByteDance says they don't want to sell it off. I understand that they don't want to sell it off. They don't want to be forced to do anything that they don't want to do. But if they don't want to be forced to sell it off, then why suddenly is Elon Musk the answer? This whole time, up until the wire, you said there was no other way. We can't do it. Not only do we not want to do it, but technically it really can't be done in a swift and proper manner. Or quite frankly, any manner. I mean, this is literally what they said Friday in the hearing. So we're not going to spin it off. We're just going to shut it down. But they kept saying they were going to do it slowly. Now we're going to shut it down Sunday. We're going to pull the plug. We're going to redirect you to a site with information. And they're dangling this notion that Elon Musk is the only thing that can save it. Absurd. Absurd. You hear the phrase like, what timeline is this? For real. I don't know. I really question sometimes and I say excuse me to nobody for knocking that microphone. But I question the sanity of not just our leaders, but the world as a whole. How did we get here? And what is the real? I understand why Congress is going against ByteDance, but what is the real motivation for ByteDance / China to suggest that Elon Musk owning TikTok would be the only thing that works for them? That's got to be strategy as it relates to access to the president. That has to be purely about, hey, if we let Elon, if we dangle the carrot in front of Elon, it's access to Trump. And if Elon owns it, it'll change Trump's whole perspective on it. He'll be right. And because we know that Elon spoke with the CEO, and I believe that the incoming president has as well. I don't get it. I don't get it. Originally, they were going to uninstall. You were going to just have a slowly sort of degrading viewer experience. You were going to slowly watch the app unravel as you can't get updates because it's not accessible in the store. Now, the app won't work, even if it's already installed. Users will be redirected to a website providing details about the ban. And this will all happen immediately Sunday when the ban takes effect. I'm curious, for those of you that watch TikTok, where are you going? It's one thing to talk about where the creators are going, and a lot of that will be driven by the economics, and it always has been. But where are the viewers going? Because, what interests me there is how much of where the viewer goes will be based off of the viewer experience versus the creators they follow. In other words, there are some people I would imagine who will move to a platform if they want to watch a particular piece of content or a particular creator. There are other people that are very comfortable staying where they are and don't want to go elsewhere. But now, if this choice is completely taken away from you, and let's say you rely on TikTok not just to watch lives, but that's where you're scrolling. I mean, where are you going to go? Are you going to go to Instagram? Are you going to go to YouTube? Do you use YouTube Shorts? Does anybody use YouTube Shorts? And I don't mean to create. I mean to view. I know people get views on there and are monetizing it, but I just don't. I mean, it's just there will be a fragmentation in many respects. Viewers will disperse, creators will disperse, audiences will be depleted. Some people will not recover from it, unfortunately. And I think if you consider the fact that with TikTok, there are so many different types of business models. There are just live streamers that make money live streaming. There are people that sell on the shop. There are small businesses that truly just use the platform to market, okay, and maybe are also making money off of the creator fund. There is the creator fund. There are so many different businesses that are going to be impacted by this, separate from the viewers, okay, but there are going to be so many different businesses impacted by it. And I think naturally you can say, all right, well, if I'm a small business and TikTok was working for me promotionally, maybe I'm leaning more towards Instagram, and maybe it's not as powerful from an algorithm perspective. The FYP on TikTok is it's like magic, but it's just because they have a secret sauce and it shows you what you want more of. I think it's pretty simple in those terms. But anyway, the creators, based off of what they're doing and why they're doing it, their business models, will find different platforms. So I would imagine small businesses will use Instagram more, and it'll kind of shake out that way. Obviously, if you are a full-time live streamer, then maybe you're looking at options like Twitch or YouTube. Okay, fine. And if you're in the shop space, there's 100 options there too. Whether it's Pinterest or Amazon, there's ways to play in that space. But the viewers are going to what? Just go to the other places they already are. So their time that was now spent on TikTok doom scrolling or watching a live is going to get reallocated where? I mean, it seems to me that the real benefactor of all of this will be Meta, because they own Instagram, they have Snapchat, or they don't have Snapchat. Why did I think they had Snapchat? But they have Instagram, they have Facebook. I don't know what other apps they've got. I know they have other apps. I think they have WhatsApp, but that's not relative to this. But I think Meta is a huge benefactor. I would say that YouTube is a huge benefactor, but I feel like YouTube won the game a long time ago. So even as much as TikTok was doing their thing, it's funny, TikTok started out short form content, and then they started to go towards more long form content. Because I think at the end of the day, you can dominate the short form space. That's fantastic. But when it's all said and done, long form content is where the real value is for the business model, for the market as a whole. So I feel like YouTube has always been the dominant force. So I don't feel like anything can touch YouTube. Vimeo's out there lingering around. But I say all this because I'm fascinated to know from your perspective as a viewer, where do you go and why do you go there? What I am just genuinely interested in viewing habits. Where do you go? And, irrespective of this and irrespective of watching whatever I'm doing, you pick up your phone throughout the day and there's that one app that you open first. And maybe it's TikTok, right? And it might very well be because might be on TikTok right now watching. But when that app, like when that space on your home screen is missing, where's your thumb going next? You know, it's interesting how your muscle memory kind of factors into. Like the other day, I accidentally moved. I was cleaning up my phone, and as I told you earlier, and I went to go where I thought my email was, and I somehow moved the button to somewhere else, and it really threw me for a minute, you know, because you start to get used to things. So it's curious to me where people will go and what will dictate it. I mean, it could be anything. It could be simply like, oh, I'm just gonna the next app next to my TikTok icon was YouTube, so I'll go there inherently. Or, you know what? I really like this particular podcast, so I'll just listen to more of that instead of watching lives. Like whatever it is. But I think that pulling the plug will inevitably spike other platforms. Probably pretty quickly, right? You know, I mean, it's almost like there'll be like what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Like an exodus, right? And you saw like that with Twitter and Blue Sky a little bit. But if they literally pull the plug, like you would think there will be a spike on other platforms, not even from new users, just from users. You know, like all of those eyeballs are going to instantly jump somewhere else. It's very interesting to think of it from that perspective, at least for me. You know, because a dwindling of the app, you don't get that experience. A dwindling of the app, people will it'll shed. Much like the experience will start to degrade, the viewership will shed, the creators will jump ship, so on and so forth. But if you just flip a switch and turn off TikTok, I mean, you're going to see these other platforms surge instantly. It'll be fascinating. And then you got to ask yourself then, at that point, if people start to see by people I mean the companies, not the creators, but if they start to see the economic benefit of the viewership spikes, then who's going to be in whose ear about what needs to stay and what needs to go? You know? I mean, you know, Zuckerberg is all for TikTok going away because he knows he's going to get upside in it. I would argue that they're the biggest. Meta will receive the largest upside from all of this because I think they're in the best position to receive upside from it. Like I said, YouTube sort of already dominates. So who's in line to benefit? Now, I personally, as somebody that, you know, uses a few platforms, I find that the way TikTok feeds your videos out there, your reels out there and whatnot, it's very different and it's very hard to get growth off of. And they go about business a very different way in terms of sharing content to viewers. Whereas TikTok will they can literally turn on the faucet. I mean, your video can get a bump and then just get pushed. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Mr. Wonderful, Elon Musk, shutting off the app. I don't know which of the three is the better option at this point in the game. I certainly don't like the notion of Elon Musk owning TikTok. I can't imagine anybody out there thinks that's a good idea. I'd love to hear from you if you do. 253-263-1540. And I'm refreshing because I know sometimes the phones are lying to me. 253-263-1540. Now, this is interesting to me. This is not something I've talked about really, I don't think at all on this podcast, or even with Kenzie for that matter. But this whole Blake Lively situation has now made its way into the Disney news of it all, because I guess there is something that was done in Deadpool with the Nice Pool character that is being directly tied to this whole case. And I guess this Justin Baldoni guy or whatever, I don't know what his name is, told Marvel and Disney to hold all documents and hand over all documents related to the development of the Nice Pool character. because the movie that he made with Blake Lively, in the credits, I guess Nice Pool is thanked. Now my Mac just rebooted, which means if you're watching on YouTube, my entire computer just crashed. Which means if you're watching on YouTube, you're not watching on YouTube. Now what is that about? Like my entire machine just crashed. I just looked over as I was reading my notes, and my whole Mac just reset. Just crashed. What's up, Spenny? Just crashed. So, anyway, so much for the YouTube presentation today. Oh yeah. I can't even get distracted by it because then I won't be able to continue with the show. So I'll solve that problem later. But apparently, the Ryan Reynolds had a name that he used for instead of saying that Nice Pool was played by Ryan Reynolds, it was played by, I don't know, Gerard Reynolds or whatever dumb name it was. And then that person was thanked in the movie that Baldani did, whatever that movie is. I really don't want to know too much about this situation, but it's just bled into the Disney world, no pun intended. So bottom line is, I guess that there were shots being fired at this Justin Baldoni guy, Baldani, in the Deadpool movie, which seems rather tacky and overt, but maybe that just speaks to what you're dealing with. I personally never cared for Ryan Reynolds. I know that's probably an unpopular opinion. I've never been a Ryan Reynolds fan. I liked Van Wilder. If anybody remembers Van Wilder, it seems like a lifetime ago. But generally speaking, I think I've always found Ryan Reynolds to be a try too hard kind of guy. And a bit disingenuous. And he does a really, really good job of marketing himself, and he's really a savvy business guy. But I don't know. So this whole idea that they would take the time to troll this guy in Deadpool just seems so trite, so tacky, but completely unsurprising to me. That's just the way things seem to shake out. So we'll see how that story develops. Now, in other Disney movie news, Disney has announced a new live-action Lion King movie. Not a Mufasa sequel, which I think is called The Lion King anyway, so that kind of makes sense. Now, they haven't said what it's going to be. I got to believe it's Lion King 1.5, which I think last week I was like, why don't you do that? So we're getting another Lion King live-action movie from the Walt Disney Company. Thoughts? I don't have anything to say. Because if I say anything, it's going to turn into, oh, you're so negative. Everything you say is so negative. So I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm going to say I applaud Disney for continuing to tell stories. And I think as long as the stories are good, the people will watch them. And, oh boy. I'm holding back. I'm holding back. And because part of me didn't even think it was real. Like, part of me thought that was a joke. Because, again, you're like, well, you just made Mufasa. And I guess it did okay when it was all said and done, but is anybody asking for more? I mean, are we building a Lion King extended universe? Is that what's going on? Good for you. Good for you, Disney. Good job. I look forward to the new live-action Lion King movie that is not a sequel to Mufasa. That I'm going to put that in my calendar. Also, and this goes out to Leah because I know Leah's not listening. Leah tells me I can't stand the radio show. I said, why? She goes, well, I don't want to hear people call in. I don't want to hear what people have to say. I'm like, well, okay, that's fair. But like, what about what I have to say? She's like, well, I don't really want to hear what you have to say either. Now, she didn't really say that, but I know that's how she feels. But she messages me the other day and says, and all I get is Royce in capital letters. What? No hello, nothing. There's a haunted mansion sipper of the bride in Disneyland. She's like, how do I get this? I was like, I don't know. Ask somebody in Discord. Somebody in Discord's probably going to Disneyland or knows somebody. I don't want to ask the Discord anything. Well, put me on that list then. Anyway, I just found out that's a $40 sipper. It's a $40 sipper. In Tokyo, that would be an $18 sipper. What is this sipper doing for $40? Does it get me on the rides quicker? Does it get me free parking? Free bottle of water? I mean, maybe it comes with the bottle of water. So maybe that wasn't the best one then. But it's kind of absurd. So now, Leah, even if I can get you this sipper, I don't want to, because for $40, I'm going to tell you privately what they can do with this sipper. $40 for a piece of injection molded plastic. Look, I love Disney. You follow this all under real talk, but quite frankly, everything I say on this show is real talk. The biggest thing that keeps me from going into the parks these days are the Disney adults themselves. Whether it's in the audience, whether it's in the park, all of it. The FYP, all of it. I'm not talking about the regular viewers, right? But I'm talking about the Looney Tunes, which I know is not a Disney property, but that's not what the point. The kind of people that are lined up for the last ride on T-Spin, it's just nutty to me. There's this weird addictive culture with Disney that I try to stay away from because it will very easily ruin Disney for me, and I refuse to allow anything or anyone to get in the way of that for me personally, because everything that I'm doing started with a love of Disney, and I have a very, very passionate relationship with the brand, both, as somebody that has worked there, as somebody that has been raised on it, and somebody that has just absolutely admires the heck out of Walt Disney. I mean, Walt Disney is one of my top idols of all time. Walt Disney, Jim Henson. These guys to me are one of a kind, even though we're talking about two people. I understand what I just said there. But individually, which also is kind of ridiculous to say that individually they're one. But these guys are such a rare breed. There we go, that's better. These guys are such a rare breed. And they truly epitomize the American dream. And I've always been so fascinated by what Walt Disney accomplished. And you have to really look at Walt Disney's legacy in different segments. You have to really understand and appreciate what this man accomplished, because it's very easy to see it through the lens of the brand that exists today as, this guy who started a company and it still exists and blah, blah, blah. But, it starts out with a guy that has a successful little business. He's creating content, we'll call it, because it wasn't called content back then. But he's creating content for clients. And it gets to the point that he has this character, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and Oswald gets stolen from him. So Walt gets knocked down. What does he do? He creates Mickey Mouse. Then you have to look at the development of Steamboat Willie and all of those films that started to introduce sound synchronization into animation. And you're like, all right, if we just stop right there, the guy created an iconic character and innovated new technology. But he didn't stop there. Then he dared to implement what he had developed into feature-length animation, which was not a thing. People said you can't sustain a movie with animation. You cannot sustain a feature-length film with animation, and you certainly can't get an emotional response from the audience doing it. And he said, no, I'll do it. And he did it. But he didn't just do it. He took every bit of profit he made from every movie, whether we're talking Snow White, Pinocchio, whatever he was working on, and he kept pouring it back in. And they developed multi-plane animation, which became a technique for creating depth. You can see some of this stuff when you go into studios, into the exhibit, to the One Man's Dream. And at this point, you're talking about a man that has now had successful feature-length animation, right? He's had his success in movies, right? Then he's dealing with, the unions, the unionization. I think he was overseas and he comes back and they had unionized. I mean, there was a lot of turmoil inside the company. A lot of turmoil. And at this point, it's not even the Walt Disney Company. One day he comes in, he decides to take Roy's name out of the equation and change the name of the company. But all these things are happening. He gets to a point where they can't even afford to make movies, so they're doing nature films because it was more affordable. All of these things happen at a certain point in Walt's legacy, okay? And he hits a depression, and I'm not necessarily giving everything in the perfect order here, but I'm trying to give you a bit of a summation just from what I know personally, not personally, but what I know from the heart. And, he has a breakdown. And he's had all this great success in movies and, all these lavish premieres, and he's just accomplished so much. And he has a breakdown. And he becomes fascinated with trains. Right? And he builds this train in his backyard, and it's of the right scale that people can ride it. And he becomes enamored with trains. And this would become the catalyst for Mickey Mouse Park. Mickey Mouse Park was designed to be opened up in Burbank, not too far from the studio. But the city of Burbank rejected it, and I believe Walt stormed out of the meeting. They didn't want an amusement park. Now, mind you, that wouldn't have been terribly far from Griffith Park, where the carousel, which sparked the idea, sits. And it still sits there today. The fate of the carousel is unknown. So he finds land, Orange Grove, and Mickey Mouse Park becomes Disneyland. Okay, just stop right there. And I'm still not touching on every key frame in his legacy. He creates Disneyland. Just stop right there, and you're like, holy smokes, what a life. But he didn't stop there. Because then he contributed to the 64-65 World's Fair, which then in turn contributed things back to Disneyland. And then with the success of Disneyland and the continued evolution of Disneyland, he said, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the future city of tomorrow. And we're going to build it in Florida. And this Florida project is going to be secret. And when he committed to buying up the land, he knew that the only way to do it was to do it through a series of shell companies to hide that it was him doing it. By the time the press caught on that it was Walt Disney, he wound up paying more for the last few parcels, I don't know the exact size of the land, than he paid for everything else combined. But it was only, I don't know the exact amount of land he acquired in the first grab, but currently Disney World sits at 40 square miles, 2/3 of which is ripe for development. He never saw what became the Magic Kingdom. He never saw what became Epcot. What he intended the Florida project to be was not another Disneyland. Okay? But Progress City never happened. Walt passes away. Roy comes out of retirement and works till his death to see that the Magic Kingdom gets built. And then the company decides to build their version of Epcot as sort of a nod to Walt. Because at that point, the company still cared about Walt's legacy. That is the life of one man. One man accomplished all of that through so much adversity. Now, a different type of adversity that maybe you're dealing with or the next person's dealing with, but his own adversity nonetheless. Whether it was financiers turning him down, whether it was the city turning him down, whether it was his own demons, whatever it may have been. But one man accomplished all of that. And then you go and you look at Jim Henson. And you go, oh, wow. This guy was like a teenager. By the time he's in college, whatever it is, he's working for the local TV station. He's not even in his like 20s. And he's developed like the Sam and Friends characters. And he's doing TV commercials. You know, and from doing TV commercials, Kermit is born. And once Kermit is born and all that, you know, he winds up on SNL. And SNL becomes a blip in Muppet history, in Jim Henson's history. Most people don't even talk about that. Those are my two catchphrases on the show. I don't know, and most people don't know. And I guess I'm most people. So, Jim Henson goes on to develop Sesame Street, to develop Fraggle Rock, the Dark Crystal, not just the Muppet movies and all of the technical innovations that come along with all of these productions, but the what he had to do to get that first Muppet Show series out of the gate, how he had to take his whole team overseas to the UK. He's so successful that by the time George Lucas is ready to make Yoda, Jim Henson has to turn him down. Says, I'm too busy, talk to Frank. Frank's my other half. You know, so you look at a guy like Jim Henson, you look at a guy like Walt Disney, and you look at how much they crammed into their short lives, because both of those men died young. And you go, we don't have that. We don't even teach that. We don't even inspire that. We don't even encourage it. It's quite the opposite. We have made things so, despite all the information, all the technology, and all the global reach that we have with the internet, we have made these things so inaccessible, particularly here in this country. You know, the notion of the American dream, the notion of being able to break that much ground in one's lifetime, it almost seems impossible. That is what I admire about Walt Disney. The fact that all of those innovations didn't just impact theme parks and motion pictures, but it impacted business, it impacted technology, it impacted transportation, it impacted the world. That is the reason that I love Disney. Not because of Space Mountain, even though it just turned 50. Not because of Mickey Mouse, even though I love Mickey. Not because of Oswald, even though I adore Oswald more than Mickey. Not because of the stories. Not because of the characters. Not because of the theme parks. Not because of the movies. Because of one man's ability to do so much in such a short amount of time. The idea that one man could come from nothing and build everything in his short lifetime. He scrapped his way up the ladder. He laughed at everybody that told him he was crazy. He laughed at everybody that told him no. And every single time he failed, he picked himself up and he just kept pushing forward. That has always been why I admire Disney. Because of the man, not because of the company. And when he decided to build Disneyland, and his wife said, why? Amusement parks are dirty. People that work in amusement parks aren't friendly. And he said, not my place. And when he would talk to banks, they'd say, the customers don't care. They don't care about those things. And he said, they don't care because they don't know, because it's not, the option hasn't been presented. So it was much more than a theme park, but it was just a way of living. It was a way of operating. It was a way of coming up with an idea and staying true to your convictions. That is what has always been. That is what has always been. That may be way too many words, but it killed 10 seconds, and this is radio. That is what inspired me from the very beginning as a child, okay? That is what Walt Disney beginning as a child, okay? That is what Walt Disney inspired in me, was all of the notion of all of those things, the notion that you could actually touch the world, the notion that you could actually, in such a short amount of time, have that much impact, that you could dare to be different and actually have fun making a living. You know, the reason that Walt Disney used special effects artists to build Disneyland is because they were the only ones that were capable of building the impossible. You couldn't go to an architect. You might have to hire an architect at some point. Obviously, you would have to hire an architect at some point, and you would have to hire steel workers and all of this. Okay, but from like a department head perspective, from a design perspective, he went right to the movie makers because he knew those were the only people that had the ability to create something so extraordinary. That's all. That's all I'm saying. It's a very simple thing for me. And when I talk about why I don't like something or this shouldn't be this way, or I talk about Rivers and that project or the Muppets, any of these things, it is all rooted from a place of love and admiration for the founders, both Disney and Henson. And I think so often these executives come in and they inherit greatness. And then at some point they think they might have a little bit of it because they're given the keys to managing it. But I got news for you. As great as Michael Eisner was as a CEO, he wasn't 1% of a Jim Henson. He wasn't 1% of a Walt Disney. And if that's the case for him, then you can only imagine the fraction that I would assign to Bob Iger. So at a certain point, it has become very important for me to sort of disconnect my personal connection to Disney from what I've done with the audience and what I continue to do. Not wholly, but there's definitely been a conscious desire to sever it because it's very easily ruined by the toxic Disney adult mindset. And I am not somebody that wears mouse ears. If you look around my house or even behind me, it's littered with Disney stuff because I love characters. Okay? That's why I love Ellis so much, because he's a character. But it's very personal to me. It's very personal to me. And there's a lot more to that personal connection that I'd rather not share right now. But it's personal to me. And I just find that there's this weird thing going on. Twitter is just one of these places where I choose to doom scroll. And there's this thing going on with a lot of folks that have different accounts that I notice with Disney in the name. And they're making statements like, listen, I love the place, but I'm dialing it back a little bit. I think that there's a common, thank you. I guess I have a package. There is a common sentiment among a lot of people that have a real personal affinity for the brand, for the man, for the legacy, that I just think that there's a lot of people that feel the same way. I see a lot of people, I'm not going to name names, but I see a lot of people whose accounts literally have Mickey in the name or literally have Disney in the name. I'm like, your whole account is based off of it. And, you feel this way. And I look at that and I'm like, well, I feel that way too. So I can relate, but I guess I'm shocked. I'm shocked that it's gotten to that point. There are far, far, far more important things in the world to be focused on anyway. But when a company has lost its way and lost sight of its founders' principles, its founding principles, whichever way you'd like to state it, when a company has lost its way to that extent that some of its biggest supporters have sort of just become indifferent, passionately indifferent, you really may need to take a look at yourself. Because it goes back to that short-term versus long-term proposition. The short-term being, yes, we can raise prices and we can gouge and we can get $40 for a plastic sipper. But where's that ceiling? And when you hit that ceiling, the people that you would expect to bail you out, your most ardent supporters, the ones that are there for everything, they're not going to be there because they'll have already been gone. Now, part of it for me is that Disney's escapism. And there are times where I'm seeking escapism, and there's times where I'm seeking to immerse myself in reality and actually try to figure out, how to participate in contributing better to reality. That's just me. But I started this account for my own mental health. I started for my own escape. I've said it 1,000 times at this point. Didn't expect to be sitting here having gone this far into it. Not even looking at the comments. The idea of not even looking at the comments. I mean, personally, that's hard for me to do. I just don't want to be distracted by what I'm saying, But the whole process, the whole growth, the whole experience of doing this, it's come so far for me. And as I've said yesterday, I've just learned to put my priorities and my mental health over everything. There were days in the early days, the beginning days, 14 hours a day, every day. And then you look at the byproduct of that and you're like, yeah, it gets you so far and it's good. And, whatever. And there's pluses and there's minuses. But when it's all said and done, come Sunday, it could all be gone anyway. And if it's truly all gone, I'm not worried. But if it's truly all gone and I didn't put my mental health first at a certain point, then you just got to ask yourself, what did you really gain? Because you can make money at any job, right? What did you really, really gain? And I've seen other people throw their hands up and go, "You've ruined this for me," and just thrown in the towel, and I just won't allow myself to do it. We'll be back in the park at some point. And those who are patient enough will enjoy whatever we're doing in the park together, and those who are impatient will be gone, and I welcome that too. But I'm just going to do whatever I need to do, however I need to do it, at whatever frequency I need to do it that works for me. And I will not apologize for it. I don't know what got me off on that rant, but it seems like a perfect time for an ad break. 253-263-1540. That wasn't even in my notes. 253-263-1540. It's a new year. You know what that means? It's time to upgrade your kitchen. Pampered Chef has all of the goodies, not just spatulas and mandolins and pots and pans, amazing pots and pans, but knives too, and appliances, even small appliances like the deluxe air fryer and the coffee maker. So spice up your kitchen today. Check out Colleen Herman at pamperedchef.com/PWS/Colleen Herman. And with no estate plan, you could be leaving those you love the most with high taxes, probate fees, and an incomplete or divided estate and legal fights and fees. If you live in Florida, contact RK Law for a free consultation to discuss the options and tools you have available to protect your home, savings, and estates for those you love the most. To get started, send an email to russell@rklawpro.com, russell@rklawpro.com, or call 786-566-2456 today. And last minute shipping from the parks, go check out my friends at the UPS store located right behind the Magic Kingdom at 6526 Old Brick Road, 6526 Old Brick Road. They don't just have shipping materials there and a copy set up. They've got a notary and P.O. boxes. They got the whole Michigas. So if you're local, go check them out. If you're in town and visiting and you need a last minute shipping solution, maybe you bought too many lightsabers and you want to hide them from your spouse, then go to the UPS store located right behind the Magic Kingdom. And William.bailey will help you with all your travel needs. William.bailey at academytravel.com, William.bailey at academytravel.com, William.bailey at academytravel.com, or go to royces.com and fill out the travel form on my website. William will help you plan trips anywhere you want to go in the world, okay? And if you want to go to Disney World, go to Tokyo instead. All right, we'll help you plan that. All right, there you go. There are the ads. Thank you. Hi. 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. I started to second guess myself, and I'm trying to open my notes back up. Yeah. So that was the Disney portion of my rant. And then I have to say this. I was listening to the Pete Hegseth nonsense yesterday. I gotta put this down. You shouldn't be hearing ice shaking around, but sorry, I need my coffee. That should be gone already. The fact that that's not gone lets you know that I literally sat down at the last minute. The problem I have with these hearings as a whole is that nobody ever, to my knowledge, seems to talk about anything that matters. It always seems to be, irrespective of which side is doing the interrogation, as I'll call it. Oh, see, you got to keep one eye open here. You got a lot going on. Oh, TikTok hit me for inactivity. Oh, I got the puzzle piece in place. Just seems to me that it's always a character assassination. It never seems to be about policy. It never seems to be about legitimate qualifications. It just seems to me, no matter which, and I, by the way, I don't really know anything about the guy. At first glance, he doesn't seem qualified for much. I thank him for his service, but he just doesn't. At first glance, so I'm not advocating for him at all. But I'm just saying that I think the notion that we do these sort of interrogations, because that's really what they are. They're character assassinations. And it goes back to the larger point that we're not focused, or at least our leaders truly aren't focused on what we need. And if anybody really, really cared, they would be hitting any nominee with policy questions. So you'd have an understanding of how they're going to do the job. but instead, like, talking about someone's transgressions. The problem with that is that everybody's got them. So to sit there and to listen to anybody try to drag this guy through the mud for doing all the things that everybody in Congress is doing, it's just not authentic. I would much rather have people say, listen, thank you for your service, but here are some questions I want to ask you. And I think that your answer to these questions are really where, this job interview should sit. In other words, like, if this is truly a job interview, we're past character. You've been nominated, right? Somebody thought you were qualified. All right. So now let's ask you what you're actually going to do. And then let's vote on the merits of that. But everything is for TV. And the cable news loves it. And I admit, cable news is like wallpaper in my place. But I don't just sit there and enjoy it. I recognize, I'm trying to keep my ear to the ground to a certain extent, but I don't necessarily enjoy it. Like I really take umbrage with the way that we do this to people. I'm not advocating for the guy at all. All right, but you still have a veteran up there. You still have somebody that fought for this country, and you're choosing to attack his character. I mean, how does that all make us all look? And when the tables are turned, they do the same thing. So I'm only responding to what I saw yesterday. But I take umbrage with all of it. In other words, there's enough legitimate concern that I think denigrating people. And by the way, what lesson are we teaching children? I mean, where is the decorum? Again, not advocating for the guy at all, but it is certainly pathetic to watch our quote-unquote leaders attack each other for things that we know they're all up to. I don't find any of these guys to be genuine. I don't like any of them. I never have. I personally think that the two-party system is theatrics designed to divide. And I think at the end of the day, they play this game out there in front of everybody, but behind closed doors, they're all, having parties and hanging out and having a good time and a good old laugh. Because it's business. And it shouldn't be. Congress should not be a business. I don't think our legislators should be paid. I think we need to go back to legislators having full-time jobs. And they go to Congress and they vote and then they go back to their job, whatever they're doing. Are you a farmer, a dry cleaner, you run a pizza shop, whatever you're up to, a gas station, whatever you're up to. And then you go back and you do your job. And then if we have that, at least we'll have leaders that are real functioning working class individuals, so they have a better perspective on things. They also wouldn't be incentivized, because we would gut that whole structure. And I would also tie laws to that so that, they can't get the wheels greased, when they get out of office. But I just think it needs to be basically, legislating needs to be a volunteer position, and there needs to be like little to no financial benefit from that position. You're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Royce, it's Melissa. How are you?
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
I told you I'd call last week.
I appreciate that.
Hopefully, although I should be banned from calling because they think I sound like a first-class idiot every time I call your show. So if you were smart, you would probably block my number and not even allow me to be on your air. But, well.
That's fine. We'll all be banned by Sunday.
Seriously. So there's a whole story out there that his mom even accused him of being an abuser of women. And there's this whole story that I don't know all those fine details, but she came out and said out publicly that he's an abuser of women. And and then now that he's been nominated, he's had to run it back and say, no, I don't really mean what I said.
But that's my whole point. It's like so who even cares what she has to say if she's going to run it back? I immediately tune all of that out. Just focus on why he's not qualified for the job. That's enough to not get him voted in.
Right. It's ridiculous. I don't know much about him, obviously.
I don't know anything about him. I'm just using him as an example because the larger issue is just the dog and pony show.
I know. It's ridiculous.
And everybody, that's the thing that drives me crazy, is that they all, whichever side they're on, they just use it as a grandstanding platform. Nobody really comes on there to ask questions. They all use it as a soapbox. Our leaders are clowns. Our leaders are clowns. They're all clowns. All of them. I don't care what party. I don't care male, female, black, white, whatever. I don't care. They're all clowns. Every last one of them.
I know, and it's all for show. I kind of agree with what you said before. I think you said this. Correct me if I'm wrong. You said that they're also against each other, out in public when they're talking about these issues. But then behind the scenes, if they were all at the same bar, they'd be laughing and drinking and having a good time together, and they wouldn't even act like they're on separate sides.
Yeah, that's called K Street. Those bars are on K Street. You go to K Street, you'll see all of these guys hanging out together, doing all sorts of stuff.
It's unbelievable.
But you're calling to talk to me about sunscreen. You're calling to follow up on my sunscreen gripe. All right. Well, for those that don't know, let me set this up really quick. So your husband's a dermatologist, and I was telling you last week, I don't use sunscreen ever since I stepped in a huge, tar puddle or puck, whatever you want to call it, because it was hardly a puddle. And it wouldn't come off my foot, and the lifeguard said, use sunscreen. And I thought it was wild that the sunscreen ate the tar off my foot. And I go, this is what I'm rubbing into my body? So you're here to tell me I'm wrong. So the floor is yours.
So you're not wrong about being worried. Everybody's worried about everything, including me. I am a hypochondriac to it, not majorly, but it doesn't debilitate my life. But I think about all this stuff too. So I did tell my husband your story, and his answer to you would be, okay, so sunscreen, obviously a lot of benefits. And he would tell his patients that the benefits far, 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 far outweigh any concern that a chemical inside it may one day, kill you or give you cancer or any other disease, and you would die from that. And there's no proof. There's no proof of, specifically of that, but there is proof that sunscreen will protect you from, getting a skin cancer, on your body, and having the melanoma from the, skin cancer on your body penetrate into your skin and unfortunately, one day maybe kill you. Melanoma is a very, if not caught early, it can be a very serious form of cancer. So that's what he would tell his patients. So the point of the sunscreen is to absorb, the sun rays before they could get into your skin and, God forbid, one day give you skin cancer. So that would be his answer about, skin cancer. Is now sunscreen also, and is a major anti-aging and, proof of that too, with dark spots all over you and, wrinkle prevention and all of that. And then he likes to use this example when he, someone's worried about chemicals in sunscreen, he would say to his patient, I think I even said this to you on the phone, he would say that could be anything that you're putting in
I don't. I drink black coffee. No. See. So here. So let's.
You're afraid.
No. Let's. What? Because I'm what?
Because you might be afraid of the Splenda. Like, so that's
No. First of all, Splenda is wrought with carcinogenics. Okay, Splenda is wrought with carcinogenics, and in many ways, sugar alternatives are worse for you than sugar. Okay, and that comes down to aspartame and phenylketonuria and all that crap. All right, but let's go back to what you said, or what he said. There's no proof that the chemicals harm you. And I would suggest there's no proof because there's no studies. And just because we don't have data on something doesn't mean it's not true. So it's very easy to dismiss that notion and then continue with the argument. I understand the benefits of protecting yourself from the sun, but I would also suggest there are other ways to do it than to utilize sunscreen. The anti-aging thing is a total placebo, number one. There's no such thing as anti-aging anything. If you want to tell me there's skin moisturizing in it, great. But there's no such thing as anti-aging. We all know that. Okay? So, unless you're Benjamin Button. All right? That's like the one exception. All right? Know that. Okay? So, unless you're Benjamin Button. All right? That's like the one exception. All right? So unless you have the power of Hollywood cinema on your side, Melissa, we all know there's no anti-aging. Listen, if there was anti-aging, Melissa, I'd be out there right now buying it in bulk. Okay? Because the last thing I want to do is age.
So let me clarify. Of course you're aging. I'll say that.
I don't want to hear it.
Be looking more youthful as you get into your 50s, 60s. Someone who uses sunscreen. Okay, but I'm going to go back for a second. Your other point that there are other things you can do. Of course. So he would tell his patients, stay out of the sun, wear a hat, wear a wide-brimmed hat.
Correct.
Wear long sleeves, stay in the shade.
But I don't.
But
what I'm saying is, and I hear you, and you know that I'm just bantering with you. I'm not trying to be argumentative, although I welcome an argument.
Of course.
If your husband wants to call in and like actually argue with me, like I would just enjoy that for the value of radio. But it would all be for the spirit of getting somewhere in conversation. I was never in the debate club growing up, and I probably should have been. But my question is, if there's no proof of something, okay, then aren't I valid to be concerned about it? You use the Splenda analogy, but if there's literally, oh my God, why is Leah texting me? Like if there's literally, Leah, stop, you're distracting me. I don't even know what she's saying, but there's messages popping up on my phone, and I'm like, you have thoughts, and I'm in the middle of one. Like, so what's more important?
He's probably telling you to hang up. He's probably telling you to hang up on me because I sound like an idiot.
Well, what's more important? Her secondary thoughts, or the thoughts that are literally working their way out of my mouth and have now come to an abrupt stop because she just messaged me 3 times in a row. She couldn't even do that in a paragraph. I had to get 3 different pings. I don't know what she wrote. All right, but what I'm saying is this: No, I don't care what she said. I mean, I don't care if you offended her, is what I mean. I mean, I'll offend her later. Don't worry about that. So, what I'm saying is, my concern. I think because there's no proof of it, that the concern should be legitimate because we don't know what we're putting into our bodies. I recognize with Splenda, I just don't like, by the way, putting anything in my coffee. That's the reason I don't do it. But I do recognize that sugar and sugar alternatives are bad for you. So I certainly try to minimize, the intake of those things. It's a lot harder with sugar, but I don't do diet drinks. I don't do sugar alternatives. So I think that that's okay to practice moderation.
For sure. I mean, everything in moderation should be everybody's motto. But so he'll tell his patients who come in concerned about this Splenda, he'll be like, once there's a study shown that Splenda does kill you, he says he'll be the first to die because he drinks so much coffee with Splenda. But, of course you're valid to be concerned about it. And there was a period of time, I don't know, where this was a big talk. I think because benzene, I think the ingredient was benzene, was found in certain sunscreens, and benzene has been known known to cause cancer. But I think now a lot of the sunscreens are made without this benzene in it. I could be wrong, but this is just.
I just don't. But I also I don't trust the FDA. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, it goes back to having to have a little control over what you put into your body and not relying on bureaucracy. And I appreciate what your husband's saying, and I appreciate the information. But I think, look, I just had a biopsy. There was a mole they scooped out, and they gave me the melon baller. That's what I like to call it.
Right.
Right. And it came back. It came back all good. Came back benign. I actually wasn't even worried about it. I had actually forgotten about it for a minute with everything else going on. So she called to tell me, and I was like, fantastic. Now, look, that's one biopsy, but I've been out in the sun. I'm usually running around moving. I'm very rarely standing in one place. You know, there's been a lot of times where, you know, I've had my head covered. I have a full head of hair also. So like from that perspective, I'm good. You know, really the most exposure I'm getting is on my arms and my legs. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm okay. I don't know.
So you got to do what works for you. Like, he'll tell his patients too, you know, because we were talking to last week about, you know, pushing certain products, you know, because of the, you know, big pharma and everything. I mean, he does tell his patients, I don't care what you use. You know what I mean? Use whatever you want. If you want to go buy organic sunscreen and pay $50 for a small tube of sunscreen, go ahead, go do it. You know, he doesn't try to push anything. He just, you know, feels that it's better than nothing. But he also, you know, like we said, he'll stay in the shade. Or it's funny because we've been to Disney World many times, and he can't stand it when we're in a line right in the sun.
Right.
So he'll stand under the little umbrella and leave a gap of space in front of him until the line really moves, you know, just to stay under that little umbrella for an extra.
Well, but that's smart. I mean, that's better than lathering yourself up in 100 SPF, which does nothing. Don't they say?
Yeah.
They say anything over 50 isn't even a thing, right?
Right. So he'll just say 50. You know, he tells everybody just 50. You know, if you want to buy like 75, go for it. But it's probably not going to protect you any more than 50 would. You know.
I don't know. I look.
So,
I always say that. Right? That's when I say I don't know.
I get it.
I think the larger issue is, and again, I hate this delay. I apologize. I think the larger issue is just we're so quick as consumers to put so many things into our body without thought.
Right. No, it's you know, I drive him crazy because I'm always like, is this safe? Is this dangerous? Should I be doing this? And you know, I drive him crazy. I'm more like you, where I get worried about, you know, all that stuff. But that's what he would, you know, say to me, what I told you. So I'm just, you know, kind of relaying the information. But I do use sunscreen. I mean, I use Neutrogena. So if Neutrogena one day comes out saying that all its products are bad, I'll also be the first to go. But God forbid. And I did ask him you were saying about the 5 prescriptions, and I did ask if that's normal, you know, if he ever does that. And he said, obviously it's a patient-by-patient basis, but he said, yes, there are times where, you know, you might need 5 prescriptions for something, and then he can't say what, you know, you were given and why, but he did say that can happen. I'm trying to think.
No, well, and I appreciate that, and naturally anything can happen, but my whole thing was, you hit me with 5 prescriptions with no follow-up intended. So I'm supposed to take these 5 things. They're going to run out at some point. So it's going to be up to me to call in and get them refilled blindly, you know. And so in a year's time, how are we going to evaluate that all 5 of these things are even effective?
Right. No, that's a good point. I mean, he said at the end of the day, though, all this stuff, it just comes down to trusting your doctor, you know, and a lot of people, you know, you got to trust your doctor. So if you like this person and like what they're saying, you know, then you just go with it. And the good news is he told you to come back in a year, so that probably means whatever is going on isn't super serious to the point where she needs to see you every few months or so.
Let me tell you something.
That's good.
I put toothpaste. I have this little thing on my leg. It's like basically must have been like an ingrown hair or whatever that then turns into almost like a I don't want to call it like a skin tag, but it's very small. I just put toothpaste on it and a Band-Aid over it, and I just usually never pay attention to it. It's just there and I've accepted it. But if I actually treat it, toothpaste is the solve. I find toothpaste is such a great solution for skin-related issues.
Well, everybody kind of has some home remedies or, things that take care of issues where, everybody's got their own things like that. That's funny, though, about the toothpaste. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, but it also makes me think, because I don't know how, toothpaste. Who knows what's in toothpaste? And I'm not saying not to use toothpaste. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it goes back to the same concept of when we look at how much cancer has risen, at least in my lifetime, okay, you have to ask what are the contributing factors. And I just think we're so quick. I can speak, from personal family experience, how diet soda is an absolute toxin. Okay. And what that can lead to. But I just think we're so quick as consumers to just take stuff in and not really put any thought into it. And when you look at how cancer has risen rapidly, you have to ask yourself. I'll look at like even the plastic cup I'm drinking from Dunkin' right now. I'm like, how much is all of this plastic contributing to cancer? They talk about alcohol.
Exactly.
They made an announcement last week, Melissa, that alcohol was a carcinogenic. I'm like, I thought we knew that.
It's so funny. When my son was born in 2008, my oldest, that was when the whole thing came crashing down with the BPA and the plastic. And I had just, he was born April of 2008. I had just bought all these baby bottles, of course, plastic baby bottles. This whole story drops about the BPA and the plastic and links to causing cancer. I panicked, completely panicked. And this is before they were selling bottles, BPA. If you walk through Target or any store, they're all BPA free,
yeah.
all plastered onto all these boxes. This was before that. And I panicked, and I literally went to, I think Babies R Us was still around at the time, and bought glass bottles because I was petrified about this BPA and the plastic killing my newborn baby.
I remember the BPA thing vividly. And what always struck me about that is because, look, the BPA, you're talking about BPA liners in baby bottles and water bottles, even in soda cans. Soda cans have a liner in them. They're not just straight aluminum. There's like a very thin plastic liner in soda cans, I believe. But I would pre that whole BPA thing. I think back to being in TV production as like a production assistant or watching other production assistants on shows. And the one thing that they're constantly moving around is cases of water for the crew. Cases of water for the crew, and they'll sit in a van all day in the heat. Then they'll sit out in the sun all day in the sun. And I'm like, you don't realize that like all of that plastic is basically in the sun is slowly melting into that water. And the BPA argument was speaking to that in many ways too, because it's the same concept. But we weren't aware of those things. And I always, whenever I would see bottles of water sitting out in the sun, I would never touch them.
Oh, that is one thing I'm the same as you. And I have like a case of water, bottled water that I, keep it around my house, but I rarely use it. It's more to hand out, if someone came over to work on something, honestly, than anything, because I'm afraid of that too. I use water bottles and the, filter from my house, and I try to avoid using those whenever possible because I'm frightened of, what heat hit those bottles to get those chemicals into my water.
Yeah.
It's scary.
I know.
It's scary.
Well, I don't even know how women even deal with makeup. Because I think of like, and okay, this is going to sound really stupid, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I don't care about looking stupid. Do they still put whale blubber in lipstick?
You're asking the wrong person. I'm not a makeup connoisseur by any means.
But do you remember that?
I can't even answer that. I have no idea. And I don't wear lipstick at all, so I don't know. But I would hope not.
They used to, at the bottom of lipstick used to be whale blubber. I think it was at the bottom of the lipstick. But anyway, and nobody knew for the longest time. But I just think of all the makeup that women wear and all of the chemicals and the color dyes that must be in makeup and how much carcinogenic material must be in some of this makeup.
I'm sure.
You know?
It's scary. And my family, too, has a history. I mean, my entire family, on my side of the family, I feel like has had, some sort of cancer that at the end of the day. So I think about this stuff all the time, too. I don't wear a ton of makeup, so I can't. But
I don't either.
Like in everything. And I mean,
No.
That's a good thing.
No, I mean, a little retinol under the eyes, goes back to the aging conversation, but that's not makeup, right? Actually,
It's funny because my husband is he's not a cosmetic dermatologist. A lot of dermatologists now, they're pushing all the Botox, fillers, and the lasers. He does not do any cosmetics because he just loves the science and the treating people, and why he went into medicine in the first place was to help people and to, help a teenager struggling with acne or help someone who has a melanoma. He is not in the cosmetic realm at all. So, he's not pushing fancy, skin products on anybody or injecting anybody with anything. So it's just, where was I going with this one? This is why I'm not good for radio.
No, you're fine, because I had shiny object syndrome in that moment, Melissa, because I started looking at my skin and I'm like, Melissa's husband would think that I have really nice skin, because aside from some of my issues, like at first glance, I'm looking at my arms, I'm like, I have a really nice skin tone, nice complexion, it's not dry.
You're super lucky.
I don't naturally moisturize,
You're super lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's his big thing, just moisturize, and you know what he does? Believe in, retinol.
I need some retinol.
He believes in that fully, put it on every night, or, as much as your skin can tolerate it, because it's very,
I need a retinol sponsor.
drying, and
No, I'm not joking. I used to put retinol under my eyes for a brief period of time, but I stopped. And I really do, because I definitely, that's like, I'm not even joking right now. So if your husband's got like
all over your face, not just under your eyes, you can put it everywhere.
Whoa, do you know how expensive this stuff is? You want me to put it all over my face?
Well,
That's like a $40 applique. That am I, what do I look, what is it? Oh, what am I, a mime?
The cost of that is ridiculous too.
But
that is probably the one product that he is.
No, my retinol phrase is a little dabble, do ya? Okay, I go a little bit right under here.
It goes a long way. Just
All over my
spread it
face.
all over.
You're shilling for big pharma with that comment. You're honestly, because next you're gonna be like, yeah, no, all over your face, and I have a brand I recommend. Like, I can sense that coming.
Okay, so there isn't. That's the thing. He'll tell. That's one thing he'll tell his patients: do not walk into the department store makeup section and pay hundreds of dollars for an over-the-counter retinol product. He'll say, go to a dermatologist, get a prescription for a higher strength one that's generic, and he doesn't believe in, like if I came home with a product from Sephora with retinol in it, you would be like, what is wrong with you? And I'll be like, I was influenced on TikTok, and he'll tell me I'm crazy, and I don't need it, and that's the end of that discussion.
Can your husband write me a script? Is that like legal?
I mean,
discussing
it's
this.
legal because he's a physician.
Yeah, but he's not my doctor.
But, you know. Did you ask your dermatologist about it when you were there?
Well, I needed a sixth script on the way out the door. I'm carrying a ream of paper out of the office.
That should have been the number one.
I look like I left at Kinko's, not a doctor's office. I'm serious. Like I'm like, can you bind these, please?
Okay. Okay. So the only other thing you said was about the scalp and the seborrheic dermatitis, that thing.
Yeah.
He did say, head and shoulders, obviously, or Selsun Blue or something.
Yeah, no,
one of those
no.
over-the-counter to work for that.
No.
But there is a shampoo. There is a shampoo, prescription shampoo that he probably gave you, that he probably told you to use that would help with that.
What's it, the Nizoral or whatever the heck it's called?
Is it ketoconazole?
What? What'd you just say? Pterodactyl?
Ketoconazole?
That's a dinosaur. That's a dinosaur, Melissa.
Hilarious.
No, I used to use Neutrogena T gel. I actually found Neutrogena T gel to be very effective. But you're putting tar in your head. I'm already trying to get tar off my feet. Now I'm putting it in my head. It's crazy. Listen, I appreciate the call. Listen, I appreciate the call. Tell your husband to tell one of his retinol salespeople to send me a lifetime supply of retinol, and I will talk about it endlessly, and I will even do a retinol live and show how I apply the retinol to the skin and how I put the lotion in the basket.
We can have a whole beauty live.
Oh yeah, great. Let's do that. How's Monday on TikTok sound for you? Monday on TikTok, does that sound good?
Perfect. I'll be there.
Monday on TikTok, right after they pull the plug.
Oh my God, I'm afraid.
I you know what? It's exciting to me. The prospect of everything I built being pulled away from me is exciting to me. Because I've been there before in much bigger ways, and this to me is just a welcome challenge.
I hear you. I don't believe it's going away. I mean, what's going to happen? It's like the Y2K when New Year's Eve in 2000 when we all were like, what's going to happen? Is it like at midnight? What is it, January 19th? Are we just going to open it and it's not going to be there anymore?
I guess so. I don't know. I feel like they're full of it. But I also think that their actions...
I do too.
But I think that the way that ByteDance and China as a whole are handling this is only going to solidify the ban.
Yeah.
And I don't want Elon Musk owning Twitter and TikTok.
Oh my God. He's going to own everything soon.
And he's an idiot. Like, he's not even a smart guy. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I take back the apology.
He's definitely had a lot of, speaking of cosmetic dermatology or plastic
Yeah.
surgery, I feel like he's had.
The guy looks like one singular walking Botox injection.
He does.
No, he does. He looks so bloated. And I don't know if it's hot air or if it's injections. I really don't.
Well, he may have had like a lift or some, that he could have went into the plastic side.
He needs a lift to another planet. That's the only lift he needs. I'm just so tired of seeing him popping up everywhere, and he's not an innovator. I think that's my real gripe with him is that he's like a fake entrepreneur. He's not a Mark Cuban, he's not a Jeff Bezos.
No, it's scary because he's obviously intelligent. So it's scary.
Is he though?
I've seen videos of those robots. I think so. I mean, doesn't he kind of have to be? I mean, I've seen videos of those robots, and nothing scares me more than those.
But those robots aren't even truly autonomous. Those robots are being remote controlled by a human being right now. That's all show. Now, I get that at some point it'll get there. Fun fact, the very first iPhone that Steve Jobs presented on stage was not functioning. In fact, they couldn't get signal in the building. So they ran a cable up his sleeve and piped an image into the iPhone. Now, if the iPhone flopped and they didn't deliver on the premise, that moment would have been considered a scam. But because he delivered on it, it wasn't. Those robots are the equivalent of that to me. Until you show me that they're fully functioning, that's all BS.
Oh my God, it petrifies me.
But I'm so glad you brought it up.
It scares me more than the robot.
I'm so glad you brought it up because I have a guest coming on soon. And I don't think we're going to do it live. It's going to be a pre-recorded episode. And I think it's better to do these types of things that way. To specifically discuss the implementation of physical artificial intelligence. So what are we talking about there? We're not talking about just Chat GPT giving you a text response. We're talking about the implementation of AI into robotics. So we're talking about that space, Melissa, but we're talking about it in a real way, not in the way that Elon presented it for the purposes of marketing. We're going to talk to experts in the field from a leading company that's working with MIT to develop AI in the real world, physical AI. So I'm very excited. I'm going to sit down and do that interview next week and share it all with you.
Cool. Quick question. Have you ever driven a Tesla before?
No. Okay. And I'm saddened by the amount of Cybertrucks in my community.
There's a really funny, I'm not going to repeat what I was going to say, but there's a very funny TikTok I reposted recently about people who drive Cybertrucks. I can't stand the Cybertrucks, but Tesla, they have their self-driving functionality.
Right.
Where literally it could take you from where anywhere without even touching the steering wheel, which creeps me out. And you know that there's a little camera in the top, there's cameras all over that car, but there are cameras in the car that if the driver is using the self-driving functionality, the self-driving function while they're, using the car, if the driver looks down at his or her cell phone, the car will start beeping and say, tap the wheel. If you do that again, basically, we're turning this feature off.
It's very dystopian.
How scary is that? That scares the crap out of me.
That's very Orwellian.
Yeah, exactly. And that's in most Teslas. It's in,
Yeah, but you gotta, but think about this for a second. If that scares you, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you own an Amazon Echo.
I don't. Because
Good for you.
I'm afraid of those too. But I'm afraid of my cell phone.
I thought you know what?
I once had a conversation.
I thought you were about to say you're afraid of yourself, and I was like, I hear you, I feel you.
Well, that too. But I am afraid of my cell phone. I was having a conversation with my sister-in-law 2 weeks back. Her husband was sick, and she was telling me what he had. We were just on the phone. I wasn't in an app. I wasn't on anything, just talking with my sister-in-law. 10 minutes later, I hang up the phone. I open, I think it was Facebook. Facebook. I open Facebook, and there's an ad. It was like a medical ad talking about the illness my brother-in-law had. I didn't Google it.
No, because the mic is listening.
Yes. It creeps me out.
You can actually go into the Amazon Alexa history in the app and listen to the recordings it has of you. That thing is open and recording at like a minute a clip or something like that at all times. The only way it recognizes the wake words, the only reason Siri recognizes the wake words is because you've given that microphone open access all day long. So what's happening is when you're having those conversations, the microphone on your phone is hearing it and they're targeting ads towards you. It's not a coincidence. It's a business model. I remember when I would do ads for the arcade business in Los Angeles, and people would come to me from like the Time Warner, Spectrum Cable ad sales department. Okay, so these people are advertising to you basically through your router. And the level that they could target, I mean, you know how like you know, if you're watching TV over the internet, maybe you're watching it over YouTube or you're watching it over, I used to use Sling or something like, whatever it is. When you're watching TV, particularly over the internet, not over broadcast, not over cable, but over IP. You ever notice that like it goes to an ad break and sometimes there's no ads there at all? You ever had that? Like I'll like CNN will do that. So there'll be like a dead space because they don't have ad inventory. So the companies like Spectrum that can speak and sell to that ad inventory can target specifics. Okay, because that is a digital space, they can now target you not just based off of your location, but based off of your viewing habits, based off of how long you're watching, based off of other things you've searched for. And they would come in and they would sit down with me and they'd be like, we can advertise to people that have visited these websites. So that company has got so much information that they're using for advertisers. I was blown away. I knew you could target. Like I figured, okay, so Melissa watches whatever channel she's watching, you know, and I'm not even going to pick a channel because you'd be like, I actually don't watch that at all based on this conversation.
I was curious what you were going to pick for me.
I was going to say Bravo. No?
Not so much, actually.
Yeah. Well, that was my third choice. Oh, to be fair. I was going to go Fox News, CNN, Bravo, if you really want to know the truth.
Okay, well, no for sure on the Fox News. That's a no.
Yeah, but it's still entertaining.
I mean, to be honest, it's like flipping back and forth entertainment.
Right.
I mean, that's a whole other
But the truth is, like particularly with like cable news, so there's big amounts of inventory sitting there. So the only reason I know all that, I used to be fascinated by that. Where like, why I don't have an ad, but if I go watch on cable, there's an ad right now. So they sell that inventory, but it's very, very targeted. So now you can literally, like, I can literally go off of that microphone's information and advertise to you off of it. So I don't know where you said you got that ad, but it's very likely that whoever is advertising on that platform is paying to target people that app has got data on through the microphone.
It's just unbelievable that this is the world.
And you willingly give it to them.
Oh my God, every day, all day. I mean, I've got my phone in my hand 95% of the day.
And you're not even supposed to be touching that phone. If you read the manual on the iPhone, there's supposed to be distance between your hand and the phone.
Interesting.
Now, I don't know if they've changed that in the literature over the years, but there was a point in time where it was literally, it said in the manual that there's supposed to be a certain amount of millimeters between your skin and the phone. And I don't know if a case counts as that or not. But you just think about these devices. Well, think about all these people going live. Yeah. Think about all of the data, all of the signal being pushed up into the air. We talk about all this cancer, and you got to ask yourself, where is it coming from? I mean, cell phones are radiation.
I know.
So, not to scare people, it's just to be more cognizant. It's the same conversation over and over again in different categories. You know, it's that moderation conversation, as you said.
Well, right, and the electric vehicles, I mean, too, everybody, wants to push it for, global warming and the environment and less petroleum. But then what they're going to have are all these batteries. What are they doing with all the batteries from these cars? Once the cars are, the batteries are, that's an interesting thought, too. You can't just, throw these batteries away.
No, but did you ever watch the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car?
I never have.
So I think there was a battery developed, I don't know what year, that would have gotten, I don't remember the math on it, but it would have been a very high-powered battery that would have held a very long charge, and it would have allowed cars to run for hundreds of miles without. And I don't know, what's going on with Teslas, and I know the tech is caught up, but some company bought up the battery and buried it, left a whole bunch of their EVs like locked up in a parking lot in Southern California at some point. Like there's just been so much special interest fighting the development of that. And I just question that how much of that has been, I'm not going to call it misinformation, but how much lost opportunity has there been over the years that now you look at it and it's just becoming harder and harder to get rid of fossil fuels. Not that we need to get rid of them completely, but like the idea of having cars that run on electricity and not having cars that run on gas is a fantastic idea. But you're talking about disrupting a major industry. And anytime you're talking about disrupting a major industry, somebody's got to subsidize that. And so I think it was Chevy that bought the battery. And it was like you bought it to kill it, not to develop it.
Well, the other thing, too, is like I'm all for saving our environment. But it's a world thing. It's not like, oh, just the United States is going to start a program, to get rid of, gas and cars with gas and do, push the electric vehicle. That has to be, we all share the same planet, so it has to come from everywhere. It can't just come from here.
I love the idea of an electric car. I love the idea of never going to a gas station.
Right. So I feel like the electric car is great. I mean, it is great, but if you're the type of person, if you can have the charger, at your home base, and you live somewhere and you're driving, 15 miles here or 5 miles there, and then you're home every night, and you charge it while you're sleeping and all that, it's great. But if you're driving, in your car for, a few hours a day and you think you're going to need to stop somewhere to charge it, it does take longer. At the gas station.
But that goes back to what I was saying about that documentary, because if they would have not thwarted technology back then it would be further along now, theoretically. I know the Teslas hold a much longer charge. I know there's superchargers that'll charge a car in like 15, 20 minutes, depending on the size of the battery. So having more of those stations everywhere, having higher capacity batteries with a longer life and a longer life cycle, because batteries have a recharge, right? So at a certain point, what's going to happen is the battery is going to reach end of life after so many recharges. I don't even know how that works with a battery. I don't know if there's a half-life. I don't know how that works. Okay, but I do know that there's cycles. So at a certain point, if somebody develops a battery that holds a higher charge, charges quicker, and can be charged and recharged longer, meaning having a longer battery life, then you can solve a lot of the problems you're talking about. On top of that, you could add solar trickle chargers to every car. I don't know. I'm getting hit with all these Florida spam calls. I don't know why. So.
You probably have people waiting to talk to you.
No. This is on my phone. Like these aren't real calls.
On your.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting spammed. So it's one of those things where your points are valid in how would you handle that, because you're talking about more e-waste, and then you're talking about, the environmental impact of more batteries and all of that. I don't know the math on what's worse with the fossil fuels or the batteries in the long run.
Well, I don't either.
I would go back to moderation. I would suggest that reducing the amount of fossil fuels that we use with our transportation is probably a really smart idea. And I would suggest that where people can use electric vehicles, it might be a pretty good idea. I notice people in my community using golf carts. Now, some of them are electric. I'm sure some of them are gas too. But nonetheless, I definitely see where I'm living, people driving golf carts to the Walmart, which I actually think is kind of cool.
It's so close.
Yeah, but I love that because it's like a village.
So nice. I need to move to Orlando. I'm sitting here in
We're closed.
Right now.
No, nobody needs. Florida's closed. Florida's closed.
No, you don't want any of us transport plants coming down.
I would
I'm
imagine.
in 10 degrees.
You're in 10 degrees what?
I'm in 10 degrees, and this morning I walked into my Starbucks, and it's this ties into Disney. They were blasting the Frozen soundtrack. And all singing Love is an Open Door. And I'm like, did you play this because of how it feels outside? And they go, oh, actually, no, we just love the soundtrack. I'm like, well, it's very fitting because it's literally frozen outside here.
I love that. Now, I was going to say, I bet you a lot of people from California are going to pick up and relocate. And I don't know, how many people are going to opt to move to Florida, but I think about that, how many people are just going to leave the state,
I heard Texas. I heard a lot of people might, hit up Texas.
Yeah, that's been a thing for a while.
Imagine all these people. Yeah, and all these people who lived in the Palisades who have lost their homes. It's horrible. Are they going to want to rebuild in the same lot where they're, and risk it happening again?
I don't know where people go during the rebuild process. In other words, where everybody that's been displaced, there's not enough housing in theory to hold everybody as they develop. So I don't know how you solve the problem. It's really tragic.
I went down a rabbit hole thinking about that same thing. Where is everybody? And everybody's, going to want to rebuild at the same time. So the resources are, going to be waitlist for things. I mean, it's going to be, it's pretty sad. Pretty sad.
It is. Well, we'll keep our ear to the ground and see what happens and see where we can help however we can, when we can. But they're still fighting the fires. So, Melissa, thank you so much. I don't want to hold you up. I appreciate you. No, fantastic caller. Please keep calling in. Encourage your husband to call in and berate me as to why I'm wrong.
One of these days. He was Monday through Friday. He's at the office from about 8 to 5. So one of these days you'll catch him.
Or, you know what? We set up a pre-record. But in all sincerity, I'm sitting here, opining. But as I've said time and time before, and I'll continue to say, the real idea of laying this foundation is to bring on people to educate us all. Obviously, I include myself in that. So I'll sit here and opine, but I really do look forward to getting to the point where we can talk to people that can really inform us all and answer hard questions. Because, look, a lot of this stuff is not binary, and that again, it goes right back to moderation. So, all right, you have a great day.
Right. Thanks, Bryce. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Such a great caller. Thank you, Melissa. Oh, I didn't even know we had all these calls in the queue. The system's failing me. You're on the air. Who's this?
This is Colleen again. How are you?
Again? Did you call today?
No, last week.
Oh, then there's no again. It's a different week. Hello, Colleen.
But you were talking about a subject I know about, the electric car stuff.
I didn't even know there were calls. The phone system, I just hit refresh like when I hung up, and there's like a whole bunch of calls in the queue. So okay. What's on your mind? I know the next call is Ellis, just because it says 19 calls, like total, for the lifetime of the number. So without even knowing the number, I just know that that's got to be Ellis. This is your third call in.
Well, yeah. I was just going to talk about the electric cars because my husband has worked on them.
Okay.
He works at the F-150 plant in Dearborn, in Michigan here. And he worked on the Lightning, and he is against electric cars.
Why?
Hold on 1 second.
Yes, it's on the temple. Yep. You're welcome.
Sorry, had to do work for a minute. So yeah, he's worked on both the cars, and he would never get electric. Now, there's a lot of advantages to them if you live in some place like California, who's set up infrastructure, for it, but for colder climates, they don't work.
What is his number one reason against them? Is it very much that?
It's very much about, there's multiple things. It's the waste that comes with making the batteries and what happens with the batteries when they're not working anymore. Now, I was told by someone for the electric company here, they're actually using those batteries when they're at 80% to help, like they're building battery housing places instead of the coal to use the energy from the used batteries. But that's a new technology here in Michigan. But primarily the waste, and also because in the cold weather here, you only get about 50% of the battery. So it's really only good for local driving, not for long distance. So if you wanted to go on a trip, you could never take it. And one of the things that was interesting was one of the higher-ups from this company that he works for, I think I mentioned it before, but they wanted to prove that you could take the Lightning to Texas. And he ended up proving that you couldn't drive it from Michigan to Texas because there weren't enough places to plug in to get more energy.
Yeah, but that's not a good answer.
That long distance.
Like, that's not a good answer.
But we're not set up. And in the cold weather, like if you have, like up here, it's cold half the time, right? And if you can't drive your vehicle, like you would have to have a backup gas vehicle to drive in the winter.
No, I get that. Like, I can appreciate what you're saying there, but just from the idea of, oh, we don't have the charging infrastructure. Well, if that's the barrier, then there's a solution to that clearly.
Well, not just that. It was how long it took, like, to charge up.
I see these cars in Disney Springs. They charge in 15 minutes on the superchargers.
And what kind of climate are you living in?
Yeah, but I'm talking about this climate. So if imagine,
I'm talking about Michigan.
I know, but what I'm saying is, but going back to moderation, if it's not a solution in Michigan, right, but maybe it works better in Florida, right? Imagine the impact that could have if we could take places where it's viable and implement it better.
So here's the what really would work the best, I think, is the hybrids that have been out, that have been discounted. Where you use mostly energy, but then you can fill up with gas when you need to. Those are ideal. My parents had one. My dad got like 90 miles to the gallon, like, or more, like, you know. Those really are the ideal, and that's what anyone up here in the auto industry will tell you.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
The hybrids are the way to go.
Yeah, but I mean that goes right back to the moderation thing again, right? So there's a balance there.
Correct.
But I'm fascinated by the idea that the waste associated with the battery is more harmful than the amount of gas that a car would ingest, and then obviously, you know.
Well, it's not even just the waste; it's what they have to do to build the battery, and what kind of resources they have to get to build the battery. That's also part of the equation on that.
And I've heard that before, but I would literally love to see, like, I don't know if there's a study out there. I've never even looked, but it'd be fascinating to look at that. In other words, so how long is the average car on the road? What is the average lifetime gas consumption of a car like that? What is the, I guess you would call it the carbon output, or what is the amount of pollution that the car is putting out in its lifetime? And then compare that to a battery, or however many batteries a car would need, you know, to make that comp. And then go, all right, well, what is the waste associated with it? Like, I would just be very curious to see what those numbers are. I have a very hard time believing that the amount of gas that one car uses in its lifetime and the amount of pollution associated with it can't be offset by the right kind of battery. I'm not saying the batteries we have today, but I'm saying with the right kind of technology, I can't imagine that we couldn't create that benefit.
I mean, you're right, and I will say though, like the plant here has gone from 3 shifts down to 1 because no one's buying them, and it's, I don't know, but I will tell you a funny story though with my parents. They had the hybrid, and I always say it's not cheaper to have an electric car because you're still paying electric, and people forget that. And my dad didn't believe me, but when they got rid of their hybrid, they would plug it into their house, you know, and when they got rid of it, they ended up getting a gas total gas because they didn't have hybrids at the time and ready. And DTE, which is the electric company here, actually called my parents and asked if there was a problem with their meter because their electric use went down so much.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
their bill was ridiculously lower, and they actually called and asked if my parents' meter wasn't working.
They're like, did you go off the grid on us? Because we're gonna have to report you to the feds.
Right. So when people say it's cheaper, it's really not because you're still going to pay for the electric versus the gas.
No, I get it. I just would love to see the numbers. It goes back to like I was talking to Melissa about studies. Like it's very easy for people to say things in all sectors, right? I'm not personalizing it, but I'd be curious to see what the real numbers show. And also, again,
what I think is fascinating is it's like we live in Michigan, we live in the car of the world, the car whatever city of the world, and when we were in California, we were sitting in a pool and we're talking and they're like, oh, you from Detroit, oh, you must love electric cars. We're like, no, we hate them. They're like, what? And it was to us the difference in how people feel about cars is so subjective to where you live, and it was fascinating to us because they are still built up for the infrastructure. We are not built for that. So it's just it was fascinating because they are still built up for the infrastructure. We are not built for that. So it's just it was fascinating to me.
It's weird that they would think that. I would naturally think you wouldn't like them because they're eroding traditional business.
But see, California they're all electric, and they can't imagine without an electric car.
Yeah, but they're not all electric in California. I mean, they're really not. I mean, they've the infrastructure's there.
But where we were.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, the majority of the cars on the road in California are gas cars. They're not electric cars.
Right. Yeah, and we were in La Quinta, so we were in the ritzy parts, but it was just fascinating.
Well, excuse me. I didn't realize you were staying at the Ritz.
Well, it was a pampered chef trip.
Pampered at the Ritz. I didn't realize I was talking to the Colleen. But you understand, but you understand how much just in just with the right desire to development, the right battery, just using it in California and Florida where environmentally it might make sense. How much of an upside we could have on our environment and how that shouldn't be politicized. And I understand from any business perspective that when things are going to come in and disrupt the way you're doing things, it literally doesn't make sense sometimes because you're like, well, who's going to foot the bill?
Well, here's another thing that people don't think about that we dealt with not that long ago, not us personally because we don't have an electric vehicle, but what people in our area discovered was if you have an electric vehicle and your power grid goes down, it's not like you can just run and get some gas, walk to the gas station and get gas, move the car. So if you have all electric, and that's where I think that there's a lot that has to be thought of before we can go all electric because
Call an Uber.
There are a lot of flaws to them.
Call an Uber.
But there's a lot of flaws as well.
Yeah, I know.
Call an Uber with an electric car that can't plug in.
No, call an Uber. If you can't drive your electric car during the blackout and you got to get to work, call an Uber.
Yeah, but the Uber might have an electric car and also...
Well, then don't hit next.
I'm saying we're all electric. That's what I'm saying. Which is what they wanted to do. Is go electric.
Well, if we're all electric, yeah, but if we were all, you can't. But now what you're doing is you're conflating realities in these hypothetical realities we're playing with.
It can happen.
No, but because if we actually were fully electric, then we would have an infrastructure for that, and we would have reserves for that, and you would have solar charging functionality. So we wouldn't get that far without it. But to your point, to play the opposite side of that, with the current leadership that we've got in this country, and I mean at the state and federal level, I wouldn't trust any of them to ensure that anything is there.
Nope. Oh, God, no. Mm-mm.
I can't. I mean, I'm telling you, I think we need to get rid of all of our leaders. I don't know how you do that.
I agree.
But I like Thanos snapping his fingers, all of them. And I want working class individuals making all of the decisions. People that actually know what it's like to wake up in the morning and go, oh my God, like how am I going to get through the day? You know what I mean? Not the Nancy Pelosi's and Mitch McConnell's. What?
Did you ever watch Designated Survivor when it was on TV?
No.
That was a show, I don't know if you know anything about it, but it was a show about how it was during a State of the Union, and everyone was in the Capitol, and it got bombed, and everyone died except for...
Oh my gosh,
the
Colleen,
survivor.
aren't you at a church right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, count your blessings. Jeez.
Just saying, this is a show.
I know,
But
still.
It makes you think, like, that, you know, they had to start all over.
I think you're in too holy of a place to have this conversation right now. What was the name of the show?
Designated Survivor.
No, me thinking we're talking about the game show, reality show Survivor, only to find out it's a scripted program.
No.
What channel was it on?
No, Designated Survivor. It was on Channel 4, I believe.
Thank you. What channel was it on?
I think Netflix took it over because
Oh, so Channel 4 doesn't mean anything to me because Channel 4 here is not Channel 4 there.
I'm sorry. NBC.
NBC.
Sorry, NBC.
Never heard of it. Like most NBC shows, I've never heard of it. Is it new?
Well, it's been off the air for a while. Netflix took it over when it got
Right.
banned.
Never heard of it.
So, but it's really good. You know, I'm in a church.
I didn't. Careful. I'm not. I didn't know NBC still made quality television. I was unaware of this. Thank you for.
They do.
I didn't know that. I'm pretty sure that that's not
They
accurate.
do.
No. All right. Well, they don't anymore because you told me it's on Netflix. Colleen, thank you. Your Pampered Chef box is sitting here. I told you I'm not opening it until I know you're on the live, and I haven't done anything but radio shows. So we'll get there shortly. I'll talk to you soon. I'll message you or you message me. And I think this is Ellis. So we're gonna keep the calls going.
Have fun. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you for calling again.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. She's so sweet. And it's so fun. Oh, I almost hit drop. You're on the air. Who's this?
Hello, Warren.
Who's this?
Who's this?
This is Royce. Who's this?
Yeah, that's Alex.
Ellis who?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ellis who?
What happened?
Huh?
Huh? All of the ERTF.
Ellis, you got to turn down the radio because I'm getting a lot of feedback. And by radio, I mean whatever device you're listening on.
All of the ERTF.
You're spelling your last name?
Yeah, well, that you were asking me do I look?
All right. When you're done laughing, let me know.
I'm done laughing.
All right. So why are you calling? What's up?
I know that I was just calling to say that I think we were talking about coming down next October for Halloween and then maybe staying for the next day after Halloween for when they get ready for Christmas. Or I think they go straight to Christmas after Halloween, right?
I'm sorry, this call can't be completed as dialed. Please hang up and try again. For assistance, hang up and then dial an operator. Beep. So you're calling me on a live radio show to have a personal conversation about your next Disney vacation? You don't want to chime in on the TikTok ban? What are you going to do, Ellis, when TikTok goes away? Ellis, what are you going to do when TikTok goes away Sunday?
TikTok's not going to go away.
Do you not pay attention to the news?
I did, and I've been following all the comments. Like, a lot of people have been saying it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away.
But that's just what people are saying. Like, literally, TikTok just said they're going to shut the app down Sunday.
Oh, okay.
So what are you going to do when TikTok goes away? What are you going to watch? I said earlier in the show, I was curious about viewing habits. Where will you go if TikTok goes away? What app are you going to open up instead of TikTok?
I don't know.
You haven't thought about this at all?
Maybe, no.
Maybe it's time to think about it. Maybe what? Will it be
But
instant?
I believe it's not going to go away because I heard that somebody bought it or somebody...
No. No. Ellis, answer the question. Nobody bought it yet.
Yeah.
If TikTok goes away Sunday, what app are you going to open up to watch instead?
Instagram.
Instagram. Okay. So you will be consuming content on Instagram if TikTok goes away,
Right.
not YouTube.
No. Well, I do have YouTube too.
But you prefer Instagram?
Yeah, but I've never seen you go live on YouTube. Well, I've seen you on live YouTube for the radio shows, but not for the parks.
Well, you haven't seen. Well, listen, I've been live on every platform from the parks at some point, more or less. Even for a moment, I think. But that's not the point. It's got nothing to do with the parks. It's got to do with you watching the platform.
Right.
You're going to tell me all you watch is the parks?
No.
So that's what I'm saying. So you're going to Instagram. Now, my question, I'm seriously trying to get to the bottom of something here. Now, your desire to go to Instagram, is that because it feels closer to TikTok as opposed to YouTube? Like, do you like I know that when we were on Twitch, you're like, I don't like this. I'll be on TikTok.
No.
So is part of going to Instagram just because you like the way it operates? Like, you like the app better?
Yeah, I thought about that.
So if you go to Instagram when TikTok goes away, and let's say it's going away Sunday, bro. It's pay attention, Ellis. It's going away Sunday.
I am.
I don't think you are.
Well, but you're still able to use it's not like it's being banned, but
No, they said.
use like the app or stuff.
Ellis, can you hear me?
Yeah.
They said yesterday that they're just going to turn it off completely now. I'm not making a joke. They said yesterday, even though they said originally they weren't going to do that they'll turn it off completely. What I'm trying to get to the bottom of... Yes, Ellis.
From what I heard, they said they were going to hold a ban for like maybe 200.
Who's your news source? Who's your news source? What are you watching?
I don't know. I don't watch the news.
So where are you getting this information from?
From on the app, like other creators said that they were going to hold the ban for 270 days.
What? 270 days? What?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They're going to hold the ban.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Am I coming in clear?
Yeah.
All right. I don't think I am. They said yesterday... Dear Lord, please give me the strength to get through this phone call and the rest of the radio show. Thank you. Oh, you weren't supposed to hear that. I'm in the middle of a prayer. I should get Colleen back on the phone for this. All right, listen. They said yesterday, I'm going to try this for the 10th time. They said yesterday that they are going to just shut down the app Sunday. They said the only solution would possibly be selling the app to Elon Musk. Otherwise, they will shut down the app in its entirety Sunday. And you won't even be able to get on the app if it's on your phone. It'll redirect you to a page. Okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what you're talking about, but that's what's happening. Now, who knows what's going to change between now and then?
Right.
All I wanted to do was find out where you were going to go if TikTok is going away and why you were going to go there. Because not everything you watch on TikTok will be on Instagram. So I was curious where you would go and why you would choose to go there. I didn't realize that we were going to get into a back and forth about the fate of the app.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go.
Okay.
I gotta get on an airplane.
All right. But I still believe it's not going away now.
That's great. I'm not even taking a flight. I just literally want to climb onto the top of an airplane. I got to get as far away from this phone call as humanly possible. And the top of an airplane seems like a viable solution. Why are you laughing at me? I got to get out of this call. This is a nightmare situation for me.
Oh, no, it's fine.
All right, listen. So you'll be on Instagram watching whatever dreck is on Instagram instead of TikTok, right?
Right.
All right. Alice, thank you so much for calling in. Do you want to stay on the phone?
I still believe it's not. No, I have to go to work.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
I have to go to work.
Oh, you have to go to work? What time do you have to be at work?
For 10.
That's in 15 minutes.
I know, but my mom wants to leave early.
I know, but no, not early. I mean, you're running out of time. You're going to be late to work.
Yeah, right.
What are you doing at work today?
I don't know. Normally we run errands sometimes.
I think you need to ask for a promotion.
No.
Yeah, just who do you report to at work? Peter? Oh, just say, listen, I think it's time for a promotion. Will you do that and let me know what they say? Just tell your mom tell your mom that I think it's time for a promotion.
All right, I'll ask them and I'll get back to you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. All right, I got to do the ad. I got to get out of here. My head is spinning from that call. Colleen Herman, Pampered Chef. It's a new year, which means it's time to spice up your kitchen. Pampered Chef has all the goodies from spatulas, mandolins, amazing pots and pans, and knives. Plus, don't miss out on small appliances like the deluxe air fryer and coffee maker. Spice up your kitchen today. Go to Colleen Herman, pamperedchef.com/PWS Colleen Herman, pamperedchef.com/PWS Colleen Herman. And with no estate plan, you could be leaving those you love the most with high taxes, probate fees, an incomplete or divided estate, and legal fights and fees. If you live in Florida, contact RK Law for a free consultation to discuss the options and tools you have available to protect your home, savings, and estate for those you love the most. To get started, send an email to russell@rklawpro.com, russell@rklawpro.com, or call 786-566-2456 to set up your consultation today. Last minute shipping from the parks, my friends at the UPS store will help you out. 6526 Old Brick Road, located right behind the Magic Kingdom. 6526 Old Brick Road. They've got a notary, copy, P.O. Box services, all of this and much, much more. That is the UPS store, 6526 Old Brick Road. And as always, William.Bailey Travel is there for all of your travel needs, whether you're planning a cruise, a Disney trip, a Disney cruise, or really just looking to go anywhere in the world. William will provide you with a customizable experience at competitive rates. So check out William.Bailey Travel. You can go to my website, royces.com, to fill out the form, or William.Bailey at academytravel.com. William.Bailey at academytravel.com. I keep talking about wanting to do a marathon, and I don't know if I'm starting it tonight or tomorrow morning or what, but I am like just so close and ready to rock all things. And I am so excited to get there with y'all. I want to thank everyone for calling in. I want to thank our sponsors. I will, yet again, am being introduced to another workflow issue with the YouTube crash. So I'll try to get this TikTok replay downloaded and uploaded to YouTube, bridge that gap there. I'm going to hang up the phones. I am going to end the show, and then I'm going to be over there on TikTok with you. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.